Welcome to the Creative Genius Knot podcast, where we explore those juicy topics you can't get enough of. Fill up your cup as I chat to Mitch Lee from Mitch's Kitchen, and we explore a passion for food and tips on getting the best flavours out of your cooking. So sit back, chuck on a hoodie and some comfy slippers and grab yourself a brew for episode 3 of season 2, environmentally conscious menus for plant-based foodies. Welcome, Mitch. Thank you so much for coming on to my podcast today. So this episode's all about being environmentally conscious, plant-based foodies, having, menus that kind of speak to that audience. So fire away, tell us a little bit about Mitch's Kitchen and where that idea came from.
Okay, so my name's Mitch, and along with my wife Shirin, we're the founders of Mitch's Kitchen. We're both vegan and gluten-free, and we found that if we were trying to get something that was healthy, convenient, not in single-use packaging, it basically didn't exist. And this was in 2018. Obviously, since then, some things have changed. More products are coming out, but there's still not a major focus on being healthy or the packaging, where it's sourced from, or if it is recyclable. So that was something that was really passionate for us. So we create delicious plant-based foods. They're all 100% vegan, free from nuts, gluten, palm oil, and refined sugar. As I said, all of the packaging is fully recyclable. And for every meal sold, we donate a meal to a child in need through Mary's Meal and Work for Good. So we've tried to tick all the boxes.
In some of your marketing, you talk about a plant-based generation. Who is that to you?
So our strapline is fast-paced plant-based. It's a really good tongue twister. I get it wrong so many times on interviews, so I think it's drilled into me enough that it sticks. But yeah, we say fueling the fast-paced plant-based generation. And it's just the way people and consumers seem to be buying nowadays. Like even my mum and dad, for example, they're not vegan, but they will go to the shops and be like, oh, that vegetarian meal looks nice, or that vegan ingredient looks good. And it's just having that kind of conscious buying behavior that people are looking for those alternatives. People are more and more aware of the impact that meat and dairy have on the planet. And I feel like as a consumer, you feel that little bit better in your own buying if you know the product you're buying is technically a better choice.
Absolutely. It's like once you start to unpick that thread, then you just find it opens up a whole world of other things, like the way that you shop, your process of buying, like looking into things more in depth. That's that generation, isn't it? I mean, where do you think it stemmed from? Do you think it came from the millennial generation and their purpose-driven buying approach, and it's sort of filtering out now that there's more awareness behind it? I mean, have you noticed any trends?
Yeah, the millennial kind of age, the Gen Z, they're the ones who are really kind of growing up questioning how their food got to where it is. So it's no longer just kind of like accepting that a burger is a burger or this is a sausage. It's like, actually, what's it made from? Where's it come from? And so I think as soon as people start to understand that more, they go, well, there's alternatives. Why would you bother killing an animal for like a sausage when you can buy a really good alternative over here? So I think it's definitely stemmed from that generation. And then also the health focus, because a lot of the time animal produce will be high in saturated fats, or if you're buying kind of, I don't know, junk food, which isn't vegan, again, it's just loads of dairy, loads of cheese, loads of oils, fats, sugars, salts. So the calories, the actual quality of nutrition is really low. So I think people are trying to become more and more healthy with their food options and what they're buying. Despite the way the market seems to be going with all the junk food still coming out, it's just now vegan junk food.
How did it start for you? You mentioned that your parents aren't vegan, so I assume you probably, like most of us, including myself, grew up in a meat-eating family as a child. What was that turning point for you?
So it's actually quite a funny story. It was my wife, she decided to go vegan first. So this was back in 2015. We were touring across America. She's an amazing singer, and we were touring with her music. And along the way, I was kind of like blogging everything, like doing video logs, like all this stuff. And one thing, like I was still very into eating meat, and America is known for like home of barbecue in certain areas. And we'd gone to this amazing barbecue house called Kansas City Barbecue. It's like, if you search barbecue in America, it's like one of the top 5 it recommends to go to. So we arrived there, queued up, the queue was massive, got this food. And then Shirin was just like, I'm not really hungry. Like, I don't really fancy it. she didn't say anything, and I was just like gorging away. And then we got back to the car, and she was just like, I can't do it anymore. I was like, do what? And she was just like, I just can't face eating animals. And it was just like, literally, she had this epiphany moment. So I'm always really supportive. Like I just love cooking. So when she kind of made that decision, she kind of went pescatarian for a bit. So the rest of the time in America, we were mainly just eating, either trying alternatives, which I'd never touched before, or just not bothering and just eating loads of sort of nice fruits, vegetables, grains and everything, and just cooking vegan while we're out there. And then, when we came home, I ended up getting a part-time job in what was a vegetarian cafe. So I was still doing kind of food blog. I was working with Muscle Food, which massive meat company in the UK. Like I was doing recipe videos for them, and then working in a vegetarian cafe. And then it got to January 2016, and I decided, well, as a business, we were going completely vegan. We had a big rebrand. It's called Offbeat, which it's now in Southampton. So we had a big rebrand, became 100% vegan, and I decided, well, I'll do veganuary as well. So go completely vegan for the month of January in 2016, and I just found it like so easy to do, really exciting. I was already cooking vegan food at Offbeat and coming home and cooking vegan food for Shirin and just doing the odd bit extra for me. And I was like, this makes no sense at all. I'm not missing out by not having it. So I just stopped.
So is your background in the food industry then? Like, where does that begin?
My kind of passion for food started actually when I was about 15. I was quite overweight when I was in school. Like I was one of the big kids, kind of end of primary school, early secondary school. Like junk food was my thing. I just loved, like, it wouldn't be like a couple of biscuits, it'd be like a packet of biscuits. And then I saw this documentary on the TV called Jump London, which was all about free running.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of saw it and went, that's what I want to do. And I knew with my current shape and size that I wouldn't be able to do much. So first thing I looked at was my diet and then exercise. And within 3 months, I'd lost 2 stone, suddenly had this newfound confidence, and just felt absolutely fantastic through what I was eating and how I was feeling. Like I wasn't vegan then, but I was just eating a lot better, like cutting out refined sugar, just cutting out as much junk food as possible. I'd still allow myself like chocolate or treats if I wanted, but it was very much like, no, I'll have that after I've had a really long training session. Or it became a bit more like less all the time and much more sporadic. So that kind of stuck with me then. And the more I got into free running, the more I got into nutrition. I did a sports degree at university, and although it didn't have a nutrition element, I was very much the whole way through researching myself, looking into food. I kind of started after university where I was doing free running full time, but then also food blogging. So I just would self-teach my way. So I love brownies. I love sweet things. I've got a real sweet tooth. How can I make them so there's no refined sugar, there's no fat, they're high protein, and I just play around with food, completely thinking outside the box, just chuck it in, see if it worked. Had some absolute disasters, like my mum didn't like hardly any of the protein stuff I was making. She was like, it tastes a bit proteiny. But if I ever got one that she liked, she was like, yeah, that's a good one. So all self-taught until I started at Offbeat, and that's where basically between myself, Pete, and at the time was another chef, Kate, we were kind of coming up with new ideas, and Pete allowed me the flexibility to try new things. We would look online, see what vegan cheese recipes there were. We'd tweak stuff. We'd kind of create things. And it was an amazing kind of learning experience for me where we just had that freedom to do something, put it out there and get feedback from the customers. So kind of over the 3 years that I was there, really honed my skills with vegan and gluten-free cooking. That's kind of what then stemmed me on to start Mitch's Kitchen.
There is still a stigma around some meat eaters that are in my life personally that just feel like vegan cooking doesn't have flavour and it's missing the juices that come with meat, and therefore it doesn't taste as good. And for me personally, like in the space I've been vegetarian, like it's changed massively. Like what's on offer now, vegan is just everywhere, and as a family we eat loads and loads of vegan food, and it's got so much flavour. But I feel like it also just pushes you to just really improve your own personal cooking, trying to find the flavours, and it like pushes you more. So what would you say to somebody that would perhaps have that view?
The main things are just getting flavour in at as many stages of the cooking as you can. So can you pre-marinate things? So say you're cooking with tofu itself is really bland, but if you cook it properly, it's absolutely incredible. Like, I'm a huge tofu fan, which, say this to me 5 years ago, I would have laughed at you because I was eating every animal under the sun. Yeah, it's trying to work out how you can get the specific flavors into food and not thinking so much like my old dinner plate used to be piece of meat, carb sauce, vegetables. That was kind of a generic meal. Whereas with vegan food, it's much more kind of together. For example, if I'm making a pasta dish, I'll cook the pasta and then I'll make a sauce that has loads of different herbs and spices and all sorts in the sauce itself. But then you can put in as much vegetables. I'll always put in some either like lentils or chickpeas, olives, artichokes. There's so many other things you can put in rather than just straight away going for the meat alternatives. We actually have on our menu, it's called sun-kissed pasta. And the main bulk of the sauce is roasted sweet potatoes blended with sun-dried tomatoes, some hemp oil, and some nutritional yeast, which is that like really, it gives a really good cheesy flavor. So it's a really kind of silky, rich sauce, but it's got so much flavor. Like, you wouldn't eat it and go, oh, it would have been better if there was meat in it, because there's so much to it.
So eco impact then, I wrote that as a note just because I was so impressed with your not just vegan approach, but recyclable packaging and carbon neutral delivery. So talk me through how that came about.
We, from day one, knew we wanted to be as eco-friendly as possible. It's something that we're really passionate about ourselves. Like, there's a new fantastic refill shop that's opened just up the road from us now, called All Good Things in Fareham. It's about 100 meters up the road from us. So it's these little things that I'm like, great. So with our own like packaging and everything, we spent about a year researching. It was from February 2018 until November when we actually launched. Most of that time was spent just doing loads of research, getting samples sent out, testing things, seeing whether it was actually curbside recyclable or if you had to go to like a special recycling plant. So before we'd actually launched or done anything, we kind of did all the groundwork first, which I think some people, it's like a later consideration. It's like, okay, meal company or takeaway, it's just going to be in plastic Tupperware. And we were like, no, that's not what we want to do. We need packaging that's not only going to be recyclable, but that it can be frozen and heated in the oven or microwave. And like, there were so many elements to it. We even went to a big expo in Birmingham called Food-X, and we were walking around like looking at like packaging machines and vegetable choppers, and I'd never seen anything like it. It was phenomenal. From the automated packing plants that obviously some huge manufacturers will use. You press a button and it's just doing everything for you. We're not at that stage. Everything's very much handmade and done by us in-house. But yeah, it was research first and just really be strong in your beliefs and values to work out how you can do it. Like the charitable element for us, that was something that we had to do a few months down the line, because when we first launched, we approached Mary's Meals and a few other brands that we knew you could say, for this meal sold, we'll donate a meal. But being a charity, they obviously have their own targets, they have their own commitments and expenses they have to fulfill. So they only work with a handful of big brands, or they ask for like a set commitment. And it was something like £8,000 or something for a year. And we're like, well, I don't even know if we're going to make £8,000. So we can't really commit to that before we've made a penny. And then we discovered a company called Work for Good, who almost acts as like a broker. So you can set up an account, you can work with them to say, right, I want to support this charity, and I can do, for every client we do, we'll give this, or because you do something like that, don't you, with the planting trees, is it?
Yeah. So for every new client I take on, I plant some trees, but I do it in their name as well. So it's like together we're part of the sustainability story, which I think is really nice. But also the fact that you, and this is really important to me as well, is that local sourcing. So who else do you use locally? Like, did you want to give anyone like a bit of a shout out?
Well, our main fruit and veg supplier is the Fruit Basket. You'll 100% have seen their vans flying around. They cover most of the south, if not further. But their main kind of hub is in Gosport. When we were at Offbeat, we used to use them. So straight away when I was setting up, it was kind of a no-brainer that I could go to them for everything. And they would do daily deliveries to our kitchen. So we got nice fresh produce. Again, they would source stuff from as local as possible. And if they couldn't get it, they would be going up to London every morning in the early hours to get whatever other produce there was. Southern Cross Packaging, who do our trays, they're actually based over in Havant. So again, we can drive up and actually pick the boxes up from them rather than having them shipped out by container. And they're a massive player in the sort of food tray industry. They do all the like Iceland ready meals, and the later sort of Tesco and Sainsbury's ones are in these paperboard trays. It's all the same supplier.
Oh, right.
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we just tried initially searching far and wide for the best deal and the best options. And then it just so happened that certain things were starting to be local. Another one was our chocolate for the brownies and our chocolate chili. He's based in kind of Haven Way again, JK Fine Chocolates. And he's someone I knew through Brady and the Housing Association. So again, there's all these contacts I've made over the years that he's got this phenomenal chocolate. There was no it was unrefined sugar. He didn't even temper the chocolate, so it hasn't been heated and treated once. So it means it's even purer going into our food, which is then when it cooks, that's where all the flavour comes from. So we're able to source better quality ingredients by going local.
A part of my brand is massively the sustainability piece and being conscious, but it's also kindness to ourselves and each other and well-being, self-care and all that sort of stuff. So you mentioned that you weren't really that happy with yourself, and you saw free running and thought, that's a bit of me, which is really cool, and then literally committed and got into it, which is amazing. So talking kind of about the importance of looking at what we put in our bodies, how do you think about that when you're creating menus?
For us, the one thing we're really, really passionate about is whole food plant-based. We look for as unrefined, as natural as possible. So if we're using grains, for example, we use a whole grain rice or a wild rice. There's quinoa, there's buckwheat. There's all these things that are really high protein or great natural sources of nutritious carbohydrates. There's some good fats in quinoa. There's good protein. So I'd start kind of formulating a dish for the menu in particular by going, okay, I've got a pasta dish. What can I do with buckwheat? What can I do with quinoa? And then focused on that first and thought, okay, what kind of dishes would use a couscous or a quinoa? And then I thought, well, a tagine. What goes into a tagine? So play around with different vegetables, try and think, okay, butternut squash, peppers, onion. We've got some amazing apricots in there. So you kind of focus on a particular cuisine and grain and then kind of fill in the gaps. Like that's how I've always done it. And the nutrition was the last thing we worked out. It was always put the ingredients in, taste it, see how it is, and then put it through the nutrition software and see what the calories and fat and protein and everything comes out as. And just off the back of that, by focusing on ingredients first and then nutrition, our meals are between, say, 300 and 600 calories with around, I think the lowest is 12 grams of protein and the highest is 26 grams. And that's without me really going, I can use a soy protein in there, or I can put this protein powder in or do this. Like that's just from completely natural sources.
That's amazing.
So that was the real focus. It's whole food plant-based rather than the meat alternative route, which you see a lot of people doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially for me, when I started to cut meat out, I thought I need to just eat more fake meat. I don't know if it's just a psychological process of going, I'm a bit scared about just going completely no meat. So I felt like I needed to have fake burgers and fake sausages and things. Because I think one of the things, especially in our house conversation, is obviously my other half, he has a job where he needs to have energy. What would be good examples of things to put in food that have high levels of protein without necessarily having meat alternatives that I could maybe incorporate in our cooking at home?
Really good kind of natural sources, things like lentils and pulses and kind of chickpeas, beans. If you're making a chili, for example, black beans, really good source protein, kidney beans, borlotti beans. You can do sort of a 3 or 4 or even 5 bean chili. That itself, we've got a chili and it's mushrooms, 3 different types of beans. There's sweet potato, peppers, onion, blah, blah, blah. With the rice, the portion is about 20 or 25 grams of protein. And that was, again, as I said, without trying. A chili so simple and easy to make. Just chuck it all in a pan and simmer it away. And again, it's a really kind of natural, easy way of doing it. For kind of adding things like tofu or tempeh, they're great natural meat alternatives. They're really unrefined. They're just literally soybeans that have been cultured and fermented, and they've got a really nice texture. As I've said, if we're having, say, a jacket potato, we do chickpea tuna. Take a tin of chickpeas, drain them, mash them, add in some like lemon juice, some vegan mayo, salt and pepper, stir in some cooked sweet corn, and it's just like tuna mayo, but a tin of chickpeas is nearly 20 grams of protein. So it's a really easy way of doing it, and so cheap. That's another thing. Like, people always seem to think vegan food has to be really expensive, but some of our favorite meals cost pennies.
That chickpea tuna sounds amazing. I will admit I've never tried that, but I will now. I'm a big fan of. Well, we both are.
Fantastic for sandwich fillings, for putting in jacket potatoes. You can even chop up like nori or seaweed flakes to give it kind of a more fishy flavour.
Wow.
Things like the brine from pickles kind of have that sea tang. So there's all these kind of little tips and tricks you pick up as you go along, and I'm very much a chuck stuff in, taste it as I go.
Corporate and social impact then. We kind of already spoke about charities, child in need donations.
Yeah.
Like, why was that your chosen charity? Why did that speak to you?
I think food is something that we're all so passionate about, whether we know it or not. Like, some people say they only eat to survive, or you see kind of the traditional bodybuilders, it's chicken, rice, broccoli, it's just fuel, it's not food. But food just has so many emotions attached to it. And when we saw the work that Mary's Meals are doing, they not only focus on feeding children, it's also encouraging them to get an education, which for, I think it's 19 countries across the poorest areas, they're not only focusing, as I said, on the food. By getting them an education, they've got less likelihood of staying in poverty and actually being able to do more and provide for families, help provide for their village. So the charity itself works with volunteers within the communities that they're serving. So it could be the parents, the grandparents. They're the ones that are cooking all this food from local produce. So depending on where the country is, will depend on what grains or what food's going into it. It could be something really simple like rice and beans, but that for a child, it'll fuel them. It gives them the energy. They can concentrate in class. There's an absolutely amazing half-hour documentary that they've released with Gerard Butler. He's one of the ambassadors for Mary's Meals, and it kind of shows the impact that eating and education hand in hand, the difference in these children, it's life-changing. So it kind of really resonated with us. And as I said, for me, food was something that I had far too much of when I was younger. To think of children being in need and not having any food is kind of a really sad thought. So yeah, it was a really important charity for us.
So what's next for Mitch's Kitchen then? What's in the pipelines? Any exciting things happening? Anything you want to shout about?
We were in March last year, we were literally about to do a crowdfunding campaign. We had everything live, ready to go. And then COVID hit, and we just felt really uncomfortable trying to ask for customers to give us their money to help support what we want to do when no one knew what's happening with their jobs. So it wasn't the right time for us. And as I said, I was flat out anyway. I wouldn't have been able to do anything on the promotion of it. So that didn't happen. And we, because of the busy months, kind of kept going as normal. But we've applied for this amazing opportunity with a company called Big Idea Ventures. And it's like a 5-month accelerator course. And that involves investment, but we're still waiting to hear back on that at the moment.
Where will that take you? Like, what's the kind of ideal outcome from that?
With the accelerator, it's essentially like a 5-month intensive training. So you work with industry professionals. It would actually be in Singapore, which I think they've said it will probably start virtually. But yeah, the idea would be they've got test kitchens. They've got people who can help with copywriting, with sort of the legal side, with food technologists to improve the shelf life without adding stuff to it. So it's kind of like a reformulation of the core stuff. It could even be, say, outsourcing to mass produce, but on a chef level, but rather than 20 litre pans, you're talking 120 litre pans. So it's much bigger batches of food, which gives you more scope to reach retailers or supermarkets or kind of however it wants to go. So that's kind of the idea. So yeah, we're just waiting to hear on that.
Oh, it sounds so exciting. Well, I hope all that comes through for you and COVID doesn't slow anything down and you're able to do it safely. The last question I always ask every guest is a bit of advice that's relevant to what you do, so your expertise. So I don't know whether that might be, some advice for anybody that wants to try more plant-based cooking, or anybody that wants to try vegan food more, or whatever, what bit of advice would you share with the audience?
I'd say with regard to cooking, like if you're looking to eat less meat or try alternatives, start really simple and just start with your kind of family favorite meals. There'll be specific meals you cook every week or every few weeks that just you make all the time. And there could be some really simple swaps that you can do just to make them vegan, and they'll taste just as good. So say it was a spaghetti bolognese, there's soy mince, there's corn, there's so many other kind of minces now out there that you can just do a simple swap. Rather than Parmesan, find something called nutritional yeast, or as I've said, in the supermarkets, there's vegan Parmesans now. Try and substitute one thing at a time and don't give up hope because you've tried one thing and don't like it. For example, milks in tea and coffee, there is probably about 30 different plant-based milks available now. There's so many different ones. Like you will find one that tastes good. Like for us in a tea or coffee, oat milk is the absolute winner. It's really creamy. It doesn't curdle or split, and it works really well. But if you're having it on cereal, say in porridge, for example, oat milk with porridge is a bit too oaty. So it could be nicer to actually have cashew or coconut or almond. So kind of do it step by step. And the one thing we kind of say a lot is progress, not perfection. Like you don't have to kind of go, right, 100% I'm vegan now, and then worry about if you slip up a little bit. It's not about that. It's just every kind of minimal change that you can make to your diet, to your buying, will make a big impact overall. So if you're buying leather, could you find a leather alternative? If you're buying sort of like beauty products or even kind of like cosmetics, or for us shower gels, you can find shower gels that are vegan friendly. Certain toothpastes aren't vegan. So it's just knowing what these things are, and gradually over time you'll kind of go, okay, that one's vegan, that brand's great, I really like this, and you'll get there eventually. And the same with food. It's just start with whole foods, start with the meals you know and love, and just try simple swaps.
I'm totally with you on the small steps making big impacts as well, because even with my brand and the content I put out, I try and not take a preachy approach. It's more educational and encouraging. And so I'm really glad that you've said that, because that's a really nice note to finish on, because I think we're definitely on the same page with that. I think it's just people being open to, I mean, I always say to people, I remember when I first gave meat up, I took a lot of stick off people, like in the workplace that I worked in at the time. Like I got a lot of grief over it and typecast as being a bit of a hippy dippy whatever, because I wasn't eating meat anymore. And I think now there's been a shift since then. And I think whenever I talk to people about that, I always just say, well, maybe just cut meat out twice a week or 3 times a week, and then increase it. And in those 2 days a week, try more vegan food. And like you said, it's so important to not give up because you've had one bad vegan meal. So yeah, that's a great bit of advice to end on. Thanks guys and gals for joining Mitch and I for this chat. If you are considering going plant-based 1 day a week or more, it's all green steps in the right direction. Big thanks to Mitch for giving up his time to have a chat with me today. And if you're looking for hand-cooked, delicious plant-based meals and you live in the Hampshire area in the UK, please look them up. www.mitcheskitchen.co.uk. Or if you fancy a chat about your marketing or just want to pick my brains about being a greener business, please get in touch. www.koalamarketing.co.uk or drop me an email to hello@koalamarketing.co.uk. And last of all, don't forget to give us a follow on any of our social media accounts, and to remember to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy what you hear, so you get a little notification for the next one. Until next time, everybody, have a brilliant rest of the week. See you later.